Great. Well, welcome. This is Mastering the Reconfiguration tool, and I am Drea Piper. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a design lead at Workspace. I focus primarily on workplace. I've been a CET user since 2018, and this is my fourth year presenting at the CET experience. And in 2019, I submitted a success story where I wrote about using the reconfiguration tool. Um, and I was an award winner that year. So here's a little clip of one of the pages for my success story. It shows kind of that long chart on there. So we're going to dive in to kind of what that looks like. So starting off, I'm just going to walk through understanding the reconfiguration tool. I'm actually going to hop into CET. So to get to the reconfiguration tool, you'll just go to the tools drop down and down to reconfiguration tool, and it will pop up here. So I'm going to start with this left-hand side, walking through each of these. So there are two different modes. Say 99% of the time, you're going to stay in this standard mode. What that means is when you go to compare, it's going to limit the compare by column to what you can compare your two bill materials by. If you go into the advanced mode, that's going to give you just more options to choose from. The reason that you're probably going to want to stay in standard is CET has kind of done the work for you and determined what's going to give you the most success. So try and stay with that standard if possible. Next down, we have the auto insert. So we can easily add a completely new flowchart here. If we do add reconfigure, you'll see it adds another chart off to the side. We can also add a new level. So that's going to add on to your existing chart and make a second level. Just gonna we can also add in individual blocks. So if you wanted to start bringing in more existing, you can do that individually. You can add in another pair down here and then start to add in your arrows. The update. So if you make any changes to your drawing, you'll want to update your reconfiguration tool because it does not automatically link. So you can use this reload all button and it will populate those two bill materials in your existing and your proposed. If you have this checkbox checked, it will load from the drawing that you have open, regardless if you have saved or not. If you uncheck that, it will pull from your last saved drawing. And then last over here, we have merge, which will merge two bill of materials, which I will demonstrate a little later. So once we go into this actual chart, you're going to have the existing block that you can just double click into and find your drawing, hit open. And then it's going to ask you if you have multiple alternatives, which alternative you want to pull from. So we're going to do existing. And then it's also going to ask you to pick an article view. So I'm going to do existing layout and hit OK. And that's going to populate your bill of materials down here at the bottom. This will look very similar like a calculations sheet and just list everything that's in your bill of materials. We're going to do the same thing for propose. This is going to be your bill of materials for your new layout. So just double click into that, find your drawing, pick your alternative and your article view and hit OK. So now that has the bill of materials of all your new product. or product for your new layout, I should say. So the compare button, this is going to be really important. So like I said, with the mode, you can choose what criteria you compare by. So down here, it will default to part number and options. If you want something that's not listed here, you can go into this little view settings, and under the grouping and compare, you have all these options that you can choose from. I primarily use part number and options and have the most success with that. You can also go into columns and kind of pick through what you'd like to see, what you want to split by, as well as sorting your product. This compare is a really good tool to use when you're spec checking, like to print it off and kind of just go through, because it lists how many are proposed, how many are existing, how many are excess, reuse, and new, all in one document. So once you have compared, you're going to have these 3 blocks that will show up. The first is your new to propose. So this is all the product that you will need to order new for your new layout to work. Underneath that, you have reuse from existing. So this is all the product that's existing that will need to be reused for your new layout. And then you will have your excess. So whatever is left over from your existing bill of materials. So that is a very high level of the chart and the tools off to the side. Walk through all this. So next I'm going to go into setting up your drawing. So before going into the reconfiguration tool, it's really important to set up your drawing. So there's some things that you'll want to ask yourself, particularly when you are part tagging your drawing. So those questions would be, will the project be phased? Do certain parts need to stay in certain areas? And does the install crew need to know what parts are coming from what room? So we're going to hop back into CET, and I have a little example here. So I'm going to open up my part tagging, and you can really use all these different tagging categories to your benefit. So I've gone ahead and have entered in my tag 1, which is my phase. So I have phase 1 over on this right hand side, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Now I also want to tag it by department so that my install crew knows where parts are coming from. So I'm going to do that under this general markings tab. You can use whichever tagging category works for you. But I'm going to just start adding in these tags here. Give me a second, let me. Nope. So I have accounting, I have finance. We'll add marketing over here. Some sales. So I'm just gonna stick with that for now due to time, but we're gonna do the same thing in both our existing layout and then hop into our new layout and do the same thing. I'm doing this because I also want my new product to be tagged by department. Those same tags in here. Okay. So once we have all of our tagging done, go back to my existing layout here. We're going to go into our article views. So our reconfiguration tool is going to pull all of our data from our article view. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. And I'm just going to name this existing layout. And I'm going to go to filter because I just want to pull my phase one. Also going to phase one up there in my name so I can tell the difference. So I'm going to go to the tagging category that I used for my phases, which was tag one. And I'm going to deselect all the other phases. So just phase one is showing up. You'll notice I also have it grouped together by my general markings so that it's easy to see my bill of materials for each of those areas. So I'm going to do the same thing for each phase. So phase two, we're going to go to filter, go to our tagging category, select that phase two. So we have our 4 phases for the existing layout. Now I want to go do the same thing in that new layout. So we'll go to calculations and create those article views. Oops. This is going to be our new layout. Phase one. Go back down to tag. And we'll create one for each of those phases. Okay. So once those are created, go ahead and save that. So before you go into the reconfiguration tool, I would highly recommend checking over all of those article views against your drawing to make sure everything is accurate. If something is wrong in your article views, it's then going to give you wrong information in the reconfiguration tool. So it's very important that all information is accurate and correct before going into that tool. So let's say that we've already checked through those article views and now we can hop into our reconfiguration tool. I'm going to go ahead and start a new one here. So we're just going to start just like we did earlier with our existing bill of materials for phase one. So I'm just going to double click, find my drawing. So we're pulling from the existing layout and we want to do phase one first. So we'll hit OK. And when I have multiple layers, I like to also rename my blocks. So you can just click into that block and you'll see the screen properties box. So I'm just going to say existing phase 1. You can change the color if you want to, and you can also change the priority, which I will show you here in a bit. So you can see now my bill of materials has loaded and all the information is down here at the bottom. We're going to do the same for our proposed. Find our drawing. We're going to pick new layout and pick our article view for phase 1. And like I did before, I'm just going to rename that new layout phase 1. For my compare, I'm going to have the part number and options selected. And now you can see at the bottom, I've got my list of what I need new, what I am going to reuse, and what is left over. And then it has also spit out those individual buckets. So we can use 220 items from phase 1, and we'll need to order 148. So now we can jump into phase 2. So I want to use what's left over from phase 1. So I'm just going to add a new level to that existing chart. And you can see now that it's pulling from that existing phase 1. But I also want to add in my phase 2 existing product. So I'm going to bring in another block. We'll double click and find that drawing again. So we have our existing layout. This time we're going to pick phase 2 and hit OK. And then we need to add that arrow so that it knows where you're wanting to compare it. And then we can also change our priorities. So let's say I want to pull from the leftover from phase 1 first, and then start pulling from phase 2 product. You can change your priority in the green properties box, or you can switch those if you want to. It's however you want your guys to pull product. You can see too that these have started to add blocks down here because you're going to have reuse from phase 1 and reuse from phase 2. Just rename that real quick. As well as leftovers from both phase 1 and phase 2. So we want to add our new bill of materials for phase 2. New layout and phase 2 article view. So now you can see in those boxes, we've used all of our product from phase 1. We have some left over from phase 2, and then we still have some new product that we need to use. So you can just keep on adding levels for however many phases you have. You can bring in new boxes. If you have maybe a list for storage items, you can add in a box for that. You can really just keep building and building as you go. Once you are done and you have your whole flowchart done, you can merge all of your new bill of materials together so that you just have one. So to do that, you'll select all of your boxes and hold Control down to select those. So once you have those selected, just hit merge, and it's going to come with this little pink box that, again, you can rename. So if you want to do all new product, and that's going to have a bill of materials for all your product. One thing I forgot to mention is you can, if you remember, I tagged those with my general markings tagging category, and that's how I want to have things ordered by. So if I go to my view settings in that new layout, I can turn on. I also want to group by general markings. So now you can see that still kept the tag. So when I go to order, my manufacturer now knows what I want it tagged as. And that will even keep that information when you merge them together. We go in, turn on our column for general markings. I'm also going to turn on tag 1. And I'm going to sort by tag 1. So now I have all my phase 1 grouped together here, and I have my general markings on. And then I have my phase 2 here grouped together along with all my general markings. So now I don't have to kind of sort through which lines are phase 1 and which lines are phase 2. It's kept all that information for me. So that's kind of the different layers with the reconfiguration tool. So I came up with a couple tips and tricks that some people may run into. So one is when you're reconfiguring with product that gets specified with the options versus coming different model numbers. So I have this panel, for example. This whole panel comes as a package with the top cap specified in the options. So if we had this as existing and for a new layout wanted to add the glass stacker, it's going to have the same model number, but the option is going to be different, where it comes with a standard top cap versus top cap omitted and ordering that glass separate. Now, if I plugged this into the reconfiguration tool and had my options selected, it's going to tell me I need a whole new panel because of the options being different. But we all know that you can remove this top cap and just order this glass stacker. So to get around that, I'm going to go to another example here. Now the easy way would be just to turn off the options to compare by, but you may have other things in your drawing that you want to compare those options. So for example, this existing layout has 3 different colored chairs. And if we go to the new layout, we only have 2. So we want to compare those by the options because we need specific colors for our chairs. So to get around that, we're actually going to go back to our existing layout. We're going to go to our calculations view, and I'm going to create an article view for just that panel piece. So I'll go to the view settings, go to filter, and I'm going to filter by part number. My part number for that, I'm going to turn off everything except for TS 760 THF. This one here, that's my panel. I'm going to rename this existing panel frame. Now I also want to create an article view for everything else. So we'll do existing product. But we're going to have to filter out that panel frame. So we'll go back to part number and leave everything checked except for panel. So I'm going to do the same thing in my new layout. We'll go to the calculation view, create an article view. This is going to be new panel. We go to part number, uncheck everything except for that panel frame, and then create another article view with the rest of your product. We go to part number and uncheck. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and save all of that. Once again, you'll want to check through that bill of materials to make sure everything is accurate before jumping into the reconfiguration tool. I'm going to start another new one here. Okay, so when we have our chart, we're actually going to start with just the panel. So we'll go into existing, find our drawing, existing layout. We want the panel. And then we will do the same thing for our proposed. Pick our new layout, pick our panel vertical view. And now I'm going to zoom in here. You'll see right now we have it comparing both product or part number and options. And it's telling us we need all new panels. So I'm going to hop into that compare and uncheck the options. You can see now that has switched. So if I go here, here's all my existing panels, and here are my new panels that I need, because I have 14 existing and 28 new. So now we're going to add a layer for the rest of our product. So it's pulling from, if we had anything left over from those panels, it's going to pull from that, but we also want to add in another block and add in the rest of our product. Add that arrow. And then add the rest of our new product. And then that's going to show, we want to make sure that is comparing the options. So that's going to show how we just have those two chairs and the leftovers are going to be showing up in our excess. So then we can merge those two, and that gives you one bill of materials. Once you do have your new bill of materials, if you go to this little, it kind of looks like a graph button here, you can export that as a CIF. So if you're using spec, you can just use Configura CIF. If you are a Hedberg user, you can also link directly to Hedberg from the reconfiguration tool as well. My next little trick here is reconfiguring with components and service parts. So I deal with a lot of product that comes as packages, or I also use this if I need to order a service part. So this example here, we have this T connector that has one model number. It comes as a package, but I know that if I were to break that T-junction up, it is made up of all these individual orderable components. So if I were to change that height of the T connector, different model number, however, there are some similar components here that make up that piece that I could reuse from my full height T junction. So in that instance, we go to our drawing here. So I'm going to start off just by tagging these existing and okay. So first thing I'm going to do is go to my calculations and I'm going to find those. I'm going to create my two different article fees first for my existing. It's under our general markings. And then we'll create one for our new layout. And filter out that product. And then I'm going to go and find my connector. So I have this T connection here, and I'm going to zero that out. And I'm going to do the same thing on my new layout. I'll find that T junction, zero that out. Now I'm going to go back to my drawing, and I've actually created favorites for these that have a pick list of all the different components. So I have my regular height T junction and my change of height. So I want to make sure that those are captured in my tags. So if we go now to my calculations, refresh, you can see now that those individual components have been added. So now we can hop back into the reconfiguration tool. And I can plug those bill materials in. And if we go to my reuse, it is pulling those components that are similar, and it is putting together new bill of materials for the different components or service parts that I will need to order. Great. So that is all I have. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.